So right now, line here.
Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Well, the Pope might be heading to Canada to discuss his church's role in Canada's residential school history. Ottawa was abuzz this morning with news of a proposed visit by Pope Francis. The Catholic bishops of Canada say the Pope has accepted an invitation to visit here and that the trip would be a pilgrimage of healing and reconciliation. Indigenous groups hope the visit is accompanied by an apology by the Catholic Church for abuses at residential schools.
Commitment. They're coming to COP with that commitment. We want to see
the Holy Father present full and complete
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh and new Crown Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller were asked about the visit. Miller after his first cabinet meeting in his new portfolio, while Singh before a caucus meeting this morning.
So that right now there is no apology on the agenda. They've talked about vaguely helping with reconciliation, but there's no apology. What we expect the federal government to do is what we're doing, to demand that apology, to push for that apology, and to push for the release of documents, and to push for compensation. All three need to happen.
Look, as a non-Catholic, I have a lot of discomfort and I've been quite clear on what I expect the Holy Father to do with respect to Indigenous peoples, but imposing conditions on a religious order as a minister of the Crown is something that I do with a lot of trepidation, and I think all these things can be discussed. And obviously, the request that it be made is quite clear, and I truly believe in the good faith of the Holy Father.
Supporters of 1492 Landback Lane turned out at a Toronto courthouse yesterday as the appeal of an injunction was heard. It has to do with removing land defenders from occupying land that was supposed to be developed for housing. APTN's Elena McDougall has that story.
That's why we are here, to continue fighting for our future generations. That's what they matter, they land back.
Rain didn't stop a crowd of nearly 200 people from standing in solidarity with Six Nations land defenders at the Ontario Court of Appeal in Toronto. Hamilton Centre MP Matthew Green spoke at the rally Tuesday.
Because the fact remains that this claim has been before the colonial courts for at least 30 years officially, but certainly for generations into time immemorial. And the reason, in my opinion, I'm not a legal scholar, but in my opinion, the reason why these claims have not been settled is not because the Crown has a right to those lands, but precisely because they do not.
The case before Ontario's Court of Appeal stems from July of 2020. That's when land defenders occupied the Mackenzie Meadows development site near Caledonia, claiming it's unceded Haudenosaunee territory. Land developers and the county requested an injunction to remove barricades and the occupation. 1492 Landback Lane spokesperson Skylar Williams is the only person named in the injunction. Williams is appealing the decision because it failed to consider his evidence.
So today at the appeal, we are challenging the decision to bar me from participating in my own defense, the decision to strike every bit of evidence that our community had gathered and put together so that the court could hear the other side of the story.
Those in attendance at the rally were unwavering in their support.
And I always say there's two laws. One's our natural law and one's their law. And their law doesn't apply to me, but it applies to them, to their convenience. But when we fight for sovereignty, why do we need to fight for sovereignty? We're in 2021. That happened in 1800s, you know, and every day they're taking away land, stealing it. And you know what? We're not doing nothing wrong. We're taking our land back.
A panel of 3 judges heard the appeal, and a decision will be shared at a later date. Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Toronto.
Well, today is day 16 of Iqaluit's ongoing water contamination. There's fuel in the water. Residents can't drink it. Our Kent Driscoll reports there is a major countdown going on in the effort to get residents water and a possible explanation. This is from Iqaluit.
This is Iqaluit's Sylvia Gurnell River, and this is how many residents are getting their water. Buckets and jugs and trips to the river, which, if you have a car, isn't so bad. Until you look at this. Today is October 27th. Iqaluit usually has snow down by Halloween. That ice isn't going to get any thinner until spring. This is the same river the armed forces are going to access with their filtration system. The ice increases their degree of difficulty. The City of Iqaluit crews continue to pump water out of this river. It takes about 15 minutes to fill one of these trucks. That's a huge improvement over the 1 hour it was taking when this all began. It takes about 15 minutes to drive from here at the river to down here by Iqaluit's library, where residents can fill up jugs of river water. It still needs to be boiled a minute before using it. These city workers have worked long hours for 14 straight days without a day off. Overtime pay is nice, but that's a long stretch. This man's been coming here to fill a jug every 2 days for a family of 2. Tough work without a vehicle.
And when you're living a long way from this lake, if you live in the far away in the houses, water, if the water is too big, it will be too heavy to carry it all the way up there.
This woman is drinking water for 2, so she has to be careful.
I'm breastfeeding, so I'm drinking bottled water. I'm not touching the tap water. With bathing, we're bathing in the tub because it's faster. We can't always go back and forth to the river. So.
The City of Iqaluit's pretty sure what the problem is. The building on the left, that's the power plant. It's been there since the 1960s. On the right, that's the water plant, roughly the same age. Somewhere in between the two, a previously undiscovered underground passage that the mayor has described as a, quote, creepy old tunnel. Somewhere in that tunnel is an abandoned fuel tank that rusted out and leaked fuel, contaminating the water tank. Much of Iqaluit has mysteries like that. Things we just didn't know the American military left behind. Iqaluit was a U.S. air base for a very long time. What do we know for sure? The Sylvia Gurnell River is freezing, and getting water from it is about to become a whole lot harder. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Well, we need to take a break, but when we come back, a police shooting in Thompson, Manitoba is under scrutiny. Stay with us. Family members of a man who was shot by a Thompson, Manitoba RCMP officer are speaking out. The 30-year-old man, named by his family as Little Ray, was shot in the arm on Monday. A video of the incident was posted on Facebook. The video shows Little Ray walking towards the police officer. A gunshot is heard sounding, and Ray, holding his arm, then falls to the ground. Ray was taken to hospital with a serious injury, but is now reportedly in stable condition. RCMP reports say that Ray was armed with a knife when police encountered him, but the family says that that's not true. The incident is currently under investigation by the RCMP police watchdog. Ray's family made a statement today asking for anyone who witnessed the event to come forward.
Your interpretation of what you've seen matters. We recognize that we must work collectively to make change. Today, your voice matters. We cannot remain silent, or our relatives will continue to be mistreated by the systemic violence against the Indigenous people of this land.
To the Yukon now, where advocacy organizations say there needs to be more affordable housing so that vulnerable people don't fall through the cracks. Sarah Connor has that story.
It's a hard life, not having a home. Home is where the heart is. And I feel like sometimes I don't know what to say.
Phyllis, who didn't want to share her last name, is from Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. She's been homeless for 3 years. While income support pays for her to stay in a hotel, it's not the life she pictured for herself.
A lot of friends don't know that I go through this because I'm ashamed sometimes.
Phyllis would like to prepare her own meals, but there's no kitchen space in her modest hotel room, not even a microwave.
I've had to eat out of a can, cold things.
Phyllis wants a place of her own in Whitehorse, but with the average apartment costing around $1,400 a month, she can't afford it as someone on income support.
They just don't look at you anymore. They're just like, okay, well, we'll call you back, and they never do.
Housing here in Whitehorse is hard to come by. According to the Yukon Anti-Poverty Coalition, in the last 10 years, the population has increased by a quarter, but the availability of housing has not. The rental vacancy rate in April 2021 was only 1.7%, and prices are going up. Kate Meechan is the executive director of Safe at Home, which aims to improve housing for low-income and vulnerable Yukoners. She says homelessness is a growing issue.
100% across the board. There's not a single person that doesn't call us who doesn't have an affordability issue.
In August, Safe at Home released a report which found that on April 13th and 14th of this year, at least 151 people in Whitehorse were homeless. 52% of respondents were homeless for the entire past 12 months. It also found 85% of respondents were Indigenous.
So that's a pretty overwhelming number, and it's actually up from 2018. So we're not moving the needle on First Nations experiences of homelessness here. Hotels right now, for example.
Meechan says it could actually be fairly simple to solve homelessness if there were more supports and unique partnerships available, and if decision makers were more willing to assert more measures to get housing built.
And yeah, there'll be a front-end cost to all of that, but you know, it will pay off in the long term in terms of alleviating pressure on other systems.
Some strides are being made. The federal government is investing millions of dollars in housing in the Yukon, and Whitehorse City Council recently voted in support of converting this hotel into 55 units of supportive housing. Phyllis says she hopes to be approved for housing there someday, but for now, this is her reality.
Whitehorse is a really good place to live. There's so many kind people all over, but yet it's so hard to find a home.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A grassroots lunch program is helping feed people on Vancouver's downtown Eastside. As APTN's Tina House explains, it's all about giving back.
It's a busy Tuesday night as volunteers prep lunches for their weekly giveaway. And every Wednesday, they gather near the infamous intersection of Main and Hastings, an area of the city where drugs and crime is rampant. The founder, James Harry, starts off with a prayer.
We hope that people that receive feel the love that's gone into this, and hopefully that kickstarts the healing journey. We thank you for all our volunteers and what they do for the downtown East Side.
And it's finally time for the volunteers to disperse in all directions for the giveaway.
You two could take this. So this building, the access building?
Yeah.
Go straight up? Yeah, everybody gets one each?
One each?
Yeah.
Thank you, brother man. I appreciate that. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Be safe, guys. Be safe, guys.
APTN, man.
For James, a former addict himself, he now devotes his life to helping others get sober. He's no stranger to these back alleys.
Just started off with like 12 lunches, the wife and I, during the pandemic, started the pandemic, and we made 12 canned salmon sandwiches. We bought some bananas and some juice, handed them out. The word got out. Next thing you know, people are wanting to, families are bored at home, so they're baking bread, banana bread, making sandwiches. We had one of our youth donating their own money to buy snacks for us.
Charlie Morrison attended the former residential school in Port Alberni, BC. He's really proud to be here and to help others.
Even helping James out, it's a big thing for me, because I've been sober 37 years now, and that's a big plus for me, especially for being a survivor, because I could have been in the streets like the people I was just helping. It could have been me there. But it's really emotional.
Ernest Edgar Jr. and Donovan Bolton look forward to the weekly lunches.
I love it because I'm a person that likes to eat a lot.
A lot of us down here are hurting, but because there's so much help down here, I used to do drugs and now I'm stopping now. I'm sobering up, and because of these guys, it's a lot of help.
This is just a little bit of love to carry on the day, know that they're not forgotten.
And what started with just 12 lunches has now bloomed into 280 lunches every Wednesday, and corporate donations are pouring in. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Thank you, Tina. Well, the federal government has a decision to make before Friday. That's the deadline set by the federal court on whether it will appeal a ruling that upholds a compensation order by the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. It ordered Canada to pay thousands of First Nations children who were taken into the child welfare system because it knowingly underfunded that system. Cindy Blackstock is particularly interested in this case, and she first brought it to the tribunal back in 2007. I spoke with her earlier this week from Ottawa. Cindy, thanks for joining us. I feel like a broken record asking you this because it seems like we're always talking about it. How many times have you and the CHRT been to court now?
It's been 20 non-compliance orders and procedural orders at the tribunal, and 2 at the federal court, and 1 pending at the federal court. So that makes it 23 times since 2016.
The Prime Minister and his Minister of Indigenous Services maintain that they are not taking First Nations kids to court. We heard that throughout the election campaign and after, that they actually want to compensate First Nations children. They just don't want to do it through this tribunal ruling. So is there another way that we could settle this?
Well, I think, in regards to the first comment, when we look at what would have happened if Canada would have won that judicial review, then no one would have been compensated a penny. That's what they were seeking, no compensation. Wasn't clarification, it was zero compensation they were after. And the second thing is that First Nations kids recognized by their nations off reserve, Melissa, wouldn't get help under Jordan's principle. So that's what it is. What they can do to settle it is actually comply with the law. It's what all the rest of us would have to do. This is their own courts telling them that they have to stop this discrimination and treat the children and their families fairly. So that's what they have to do.
If the federal government decides to appeal, where does it go? How much further can it even go, really, at this point? We're 23 times in court. I don't know. What do you keep doing?
Well, we're going to go to the Federal Court of Appeal, which is one below the Supreme Court of Canada. And we will definitely meet them there. And I feel very confident that the children are going to win again. The thing is, the truth is powerful, Melissa. That's why the kids keep winning, and with the prayers of everyone across the country. It's simply the right thing to do is to treat this generation of kids fairly and stop discriminating against them. You can't say sorry for the past while you're continuing to perpetrate the harms in the present.
What are you doing to prepare for Friday?
Well, we always do a bit of kind of read up and kind of also a spiritual preparation, because I really believe that this case is spiritually guided. I think that's why the kids have been so successful, is all the people at the grassroots community across the country just in their own way providing support and prayer. And I think that really matters. And I really hope that people will. And then we'll see them in court. And I'm disappointed, but it's predictable.
Well, we will be watching, of course, and we thank you for all the work that you do on this. Just relentless, I think, is the best way to describe your efforts to this very worthy cause.
Thank you. And the 29th is the last day, so watch for an appeal to drop then.
Nice. It was a conversation I had with Ms. Blackstock earlier this week. Well, it's time for us to take another break, but still ahead, a company wants to mine peat moss from northern Saskatchewan, and some say that's a bad idea. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Chelsea Smith sent us this photo from 10-year-old Winston, a miniature schnauzer enjoying a boat ride near Whitefish Station, Northwest Territory, not far from Tuktoyaktuk. You got a great shot to share. You can send it to share@aptn.ca, and you could be our next photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. Up to the east coast, we got 11 in sunshine for Charlottetown, 12 in some showers for Fredericton, 8 in sunshine for Le Grand River, Kuujjuaq, sunny, 4 degrees. Sunshine down south in Quebec 2, Chibougamau 9, Montreal 11. 10 and sunny for Ottawa, 13 and a chance of showers for Sault Ste. Marie. 9 in rain in Sioux Lookout, 11 in sunshine in Kapuskasing. Puckatawagan rain and 6, 8 for Norway House and showers. 10 in Winnipeg and sunny, same with Dauphin. 9 in sunshine for Regina, Yorkton, Swift Current, and North Battleford. 7 and sunny for Buffalo Narrows, 7 and a chance of showers for La Ronge. Sunshine and 6 for High Level, Peace River, and Grand Prairie. 9 and sunny for Edmonton, 12 and sunshine for Medicine Hat. 10 and showers for Campbell River and Vancouver, 11 and showers for Penticton, 5 and sunny for Fort Nelson and Prince George, 5 and some flurries expected for Smithers, -2 and flurries expected for Mayo, -4 for Rock River, -4 for Wrigley and flurries, Wati, flurries and 1. Mix of sun and cloud, -2 for Inuvik, -6 and flurries for Sax Harbor, Baker Lake 1 with a mix of sun and cloud, same with New Yacht, Arviat 3. Pangertung, chance of flurries and 1 degree, and same with Iqaluit. Well, there was lots packed into today's In Focus. Opposition to a silica sand mine that's planned for Manitoba, one the company says would be used to make glass for solar panels. We also discussed Saskatchewan's plan to expand the Remand Centre in Saskatoon, something critics say flies in the face of the TRC calls to action and is a waste of money. And we spoke with a group fighting peat moss mining, saying that nature's filter should be left as is. Here's a clip from that.
I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about COP26, right, the gathering in Glasgow for climate change. And they were speaking of carbon capture technology. And there's so much money that is going into carbon capture technology. And one of the places they were speaking with somebody in Iceland, and the amount of carbon they can pull from the atmosphere is equivalent to, I believe it was just like maybe 1 day of emissions or less. It was just a very small amount. In a year, they could capture 1 day or less of emissions. These peat bogs are much better than that, right? So all we have to do is leave them as they are. We don't need to put money into them other than restoring the ones that we've already harvested. But if we just leave them as they are our easiest solution to climate change, because they sequester twice as much carbon as all the world's forests combined and take up much less space than all the world's forests. So that is a huge amount of carbon sequestration potential. And plus, in this particular region, it is critical habitat for woodland caribou. And that is another very important aspect, because culturally, woodland caribou are a very important species to Indigenous people in the north for food and for furs and for just language and culture. It's all intertwined. And in some ways, not protecting those herds is similar to what happened with the bison in the south. Yeah. So they really, really need to be protected.
Well, you can find that entire episode online at aptnnews.ca. You can also download it as a podcast. There's a whole library on our website of In Focus, face-to-face, and nation-to-nation shows. You can scroll through. Be sure to check that out. Well, that is a wrap on your midweek news. I'm Melissa Ridgen. We thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you back here tomorrow.